For close to 1.5 centuries now, Abraham Lincoln, February 12, 1809 to April 15, 1865, has continuously appeared in surveys and in books as one of the 3 greatest US presidents of all time, if not the best of all time. In order to find out why Abraham Lincoln was so great, popular, and revered by virtually all Americans, as well as the world in general. So in this video, we'll explore the top 10 things that would not happen if Abraham Lincoln was not born. 1. Lincoln is enshrined in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. The great emancipator wasn't quite WWE material, but thanks to his long limbs, he was an accomplished wrestler as a young man. Defeated only once in approximately 300 matches, Lincoln reportedly talked a little smack in the ring. According to Carl Sandburg's biography of Lincoln, Honest Abe once challenged an entire crowd of onlookers after dispatching an opponent. "I'm the big buck of this lick. If any of you want to try it, come on and wet your horns." There were no takers. Lincoln's grappling exploits earned him an outstanding American honor in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. 2. Lincoln created the Secret Service hours before his assassination. On April 14, 1865, Lincoln signed legislation creating the U.S. Secret Service. That evening, he was shot at Ford's Theater. Even if the Secret Service had been established earlier, it wouldn't have saved Lincoln. The original mission of the law enforcement agency was to combat widespread currency counterfeiting. It was not until 1901, after the killing of 2 other presidents, that the Secret Service was formally assigned to protect the Commander-in-Chief. 3. Lincoln-Douglas debates. Stephen A. Douglas, a Democrat, was a U.S. Senator from Illinois. Lincoln, a Republican, ran against him. The two had 7 debates in towns throughout the state. Most of their disagreements focused on whether the country should allow the extension of slavery into the territories of Kansas and Nebraska. Lincoln said no because slavery was morally wrong. Douglas believed the settlers in those territories should be allowed to decide the issue. Lincoln lost the election in 1858. However, the debates made him a national figure, and people began to consider whether he would be an effective presidential candidate. Many other things that had happened in Abraham Lincoln's era, but before going further, hit that subscribe button and click on the notification bell because more upcoming videos are waiting to surprise you. 4. Signed the Revenue Act of 1862. Most Americans have a mixed sort of feelings about taxes today. The debate always bothers on whether a tax is progressive or not. Should more taxes be levied on the rich in order to redistribute it to the have-nots in the society? Or should the rich in the society be given tax breaks so that they can reinvest those gains back into the society? One thing is for sure, a nation can never do away with taxes. Guess what? Abraham Lincoln's tax policy was so progressive for his era that tax experts to this day continue to be dazzled by it. What Lincoln did was that he got the Revenue Act of 1862 passed. Armed with this act, Abe Lincoln was able to create a tax office called the Office of the Commissioner of Internal Revenue. This is the same office that we now call the Internal Revenue Service, IRS. Then, he tasked this office to coordinate tax collection across the nation. Within a very short period of time, Americans were then sorted out into different categories depending on their incomes. This allowed for greater equity as opposed to the tax schemes that existed before Lincoln came into office. 5. Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. What could be more divine than abolishing the trade, subjugation, and mistreatment of another race? On the 1st of January 1863, Lincoln decided to end the oppressive institution of slavery. This single decision of Lincoln's freed all the slaves in the U.S. The proclamation also allowed African American soldiers to join the Union and fight against the Confederacy. Many historians believe that the magnitude of the Emancipation Proclamation equals that of the Declaration of Independence. In December 1865, the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was ratified. This amendment made the institution of slavery and involuntary labor illegal in all U.S. territories. Unfortunately, Lincoln was not able to see this milestone, as he was assassinated months earlier. 6. Lincoln gave poor Americans a chance to own land. Lincoln gave poor Americans an opportunity to own land for free or at a small cost by signing the Homestead Act in 1862. With the help of this act, the head of the family or anyone who was over 21 years old and had not risen in arms against the government could claim a land grant through an application. The applicant simply had to live on the portion of the granted land for 5 years and make improvements to it. When Lincoln was a toddler, his family suffered from land disputes. which forced his father to move the family from Lincoln's birthplace at Sinking Spring Farm to Knob Creek Farm. Historians believe that this part of Lincoln's life fueled his sentiments of helping the poor, with whom he had many things in common. He may have recalled the troubles that his family had when he was signing the Homestead Act of 1862 and did not want other poor people to suffer as his family did. 7. Lincoln laid the groundwork for Reconstruction. Even while the Civil War was raging, Lincoln was already planning for Reconstruction. The war resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands, the impairment of the economy, and the emotional suffering of the people. Lincoln's sensitive mind was sharply aware of the difficulties the nation would face when the war ended. He thought out well in advance how to reincorporate the defeated Southern states into the nation instead of alienating them. He knew that punishing the defeated Southerners would isolate them and prevent the nation from rising back up. Lincoln correctly diagnosed that forgiveness was the medicine that would heal the nation, and only after the healing could the Reconstruction begin. And so in 1863, Lincoln issued the Proclamation of Amnesty and Reconstruction. 8. Lincoln implemented the national banking system. Ever since America became a nation, its government officials have been aware of how vital banks are to the growth and strengthening of the nation. Despite this, few presidents dared implement major changes to the banking system. In 1863, even while the Civil War was rumbling, Lincoln envisioned a nation with a strong financial foundation. He decided that attaining his vision was through the National Banking Act of 1863. Because of this act, banks became more responsive to funding government projects. This act also brought about the development of a national currency and molded the United States national banking system into what it is today. 9. Achievements in the agricultural sector. The U.S. Department of Agriculture owes its birth to Abraham Lincoln. The exact date of the department's establishment is May 15, 1862. President Lincoln picked a commissioner to head the department, a department that he patriotically termed as the People's Department. Such was the importance of agriculture to American economy during the mid-19th century. The department's mandate was to steer the federal government's effort in promoting economically sustainable agricultural activities all throughout the country, a mandate that the department still patriotically carries out to this day. Here's the last but not the least is number 10. 10. Signed the Morrill Land-Grant Colleges Act. The numerous universities and colleges littered across present-day America certainly owe Abraham Lincoln a lot of gratitude. It all had to do with the Morrill Land-Grant Colleges Act that Abraham Lincoln signed on July 2, 1862. The act was to encourage existing and new colleges to go into three main areas: engineering, agriculture, and military education. Had it not been for the stimulus package that came with the Morrill Land-Grant Act, many of America's fine institutions of higher learning would not have been around. That's all about today's video. If you like this video, thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.